This is CBC Here and Now.
We're really in a childcare crisis in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Finding a childcare space can be difficult, but one group says it has ways to make it easier.
It was horrific. It was a harrowing experience for myself, my daughter, my granddaughter.
How a simple request to keep her phone number led to frustration for this senior. And why little wooden boats are popping up around Happy Valley Goose Bay. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Childcare spaces are in short supply in this province, and $10 a day childcare has only increased demand for those spots. As Here and Now's Heather Gillis tells us, a new childcare report released today offers potential solutions.
We're really in a childcare crisis in Newfoundland and Labrador.
Neria Aylward, the executive director of the Jimmy Pratt Foundation, released a new report today with solutions to solve the childcare crisis. The report says making more spaces starts with making work more attractive for early childhood educators. That's because they're often low paid, and some are working without benefits, paid sick leave, and vacation.
That's one of the biggest bottlenecks now in Newfoundland and Labrador and across the country. It's an issue across the board, is that we don't have enough early childhood educators, and they don't stay in the profession very long generally because they get burnt out and they can't make a go of it.
Aylward says the new provincial wage grid is a good start, but needs to be paired with better working conditions and benefits. Meanwhile, $10 a day childcare has caused demand for spaces in the province to spike. Parents have been crying out for more. And a different report from the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives released in May shows how dire things are. It says almost 3/4 of children in this province live in a childcare desert, where there's 3 children or more for every licensed childcare spot.
I think a lot of the times parents feel like they're on their own. They feel like they might have done something wrong to get themselves in this situation. But I think we increasingly recognize that the odds are stacked against them.
The group is also recommending the province start offering junior kindergarten, a universal free program for 4-year-olds based in schools taught by both a teacher and early childhood educator.
That's what's going to reach every child, and especially the children whose parents might not be working. That's what's going to make sure that they get the start that they deserve.
Aylward says a dedicated strategy for rural childcare is also needed, and so is support for Indigenous-led childcare.
Meanwhile, the report also says that any expansion in childcare should be driven by the public sector rather than businesses or the nonprofit sector. That's because the report authors say that governments have the tools to make affordable and accessible childcare happen, and happen quickly. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the company that owns the submersible that imploded on a dive to the Titanic says it's suspending all operations. On its website, OceanGate says it has suspended all exploration and commercial operations, but doesn't offer any further details. The company is based in Washington State. 5 people, including the OceanGate CEO, Stockton Rush, died when the Titan submersible imploded while diving to the wreck of the Titanic. The Progressive Conservatives are calling for changes to make it possible for psychiatric nurses trained elsewhere to work in this province. The PC health critic says he's learned a woman from this province who was trained to be a psychiatric nurse in Manitoba can't work in Newfoundland and Labrador.
She wants to come home, and she graduated just this past May and can't get home because of that. And we're in a province here where we're screaming for healthcare professionals. We have a crisis in mental health and addictions, and we have an individual who specializes and trained in that area and can't get a job here. You know, government comes out with these programs, and we're searching in the UK and Ireland and Asia and all these places looking to bring nurses here, and we have one of our own who can't get a look in really. And that's just one of many, but this was a particular interesting one because it also deals with mental health and addictions, which is an area we so sorely need people.
Well, Din says the province should look at establishing a registered psychiatric nursing board to license nurses. He says it's something the other 3 Atlantic provinces are studying. Well, the province says it has narrowed down the list of potential wind projects. Originally, 19 companies put forward 24 bids, but after assessing the experience and financial capacity, just 9 projects from 9 companies will make it to the next stage. The companies that are selected by the province will get exclusive rights to pursue development on Crown lands. Now, the projects will still need to pass an environmental assessment. Well, some familiar faces have been appointed to Memorial University's Board of Regents. Today, the provincial government announced 7 new members are joining the university's governing body. Among them, 2 faculty members, one of the concessions from the strike this past winter. Now, government made amendments to legislation in May to allow that to happen. Until then, MUN was prevented from having staff on the board. On the list of appointees, the head of MUN's Faculty Association, Ash Hussein, and French professor Natalie Pender. Halibut First Nation chief Brendan Mitchell is also joining the board. Great Big Sea founding member and businessman Bob Hallett and Tim Powers of Abacus Data have been given 3-year terms, along with business people Justin Latta and Lynn Zurl. Well, the union that represents workers at Come By Chance is pleased to see the RCMP is investigating whether a fatal explosion at the refinery was criminal. This week, CBC Investigates revealed the RCMP has launched a criminal negligence investigation into last year's fatal explosion at the refinery. Tonight, the union that represents hundreds of workers there says there have been efforts to improve safety.
There has been measures with our Health and Safety Committee working to do improvements, but those improvements don't erase the past, and it doesn't make it right with the fatality and the flash fire that took place. And that's why the RCMP criminal investigation is so important.
A man has died at a sea-based fish farming operation in St. Albans. The RCMP says the man was working from a barge but was found unresponsive in the water on Wednesday afternoon. Attempts to revive him were not successful. The cause of the man's death is unknown and multiple investigations are underway. The Steelhead Trout Farm is operated by a company called Nova Fish Farms, which is a subsidiary of Nova Scotia-based Ocean Trout Canada. A spokesperson for the company offered condolences to the man's family, but says he could not comment further at this time. And staying with aquaculture, Grieg Seafood Newfoundland is resuming work on its massive post-smolt aquaculture building in Marystown. The building is crucial to the company's efforts to grow salmon to a much larger size before moving them to ocean pens in Placentia Bay. Construction on the building was halted 3 years ago during the pandemic, but Grieg plans to spend $14 million this summer to finish the foundation and other groundwork. Up to 120 people will be employed during peak construction. The building will be one of the largest structures in the province. The post-smolt building will be located next to the existing hatchery and smolt building. This extra land-based phase helps reduce the time salmon spend in ocean farms and is meant to improve quality and protect the ocean environment. Well, an elderly woman living in St. John says many friends and family are unable to get in touch with her because her old phone number was canceled. She recently switched service providers but didn't know her phone number would change too. Here Now's Jessica Singer reports.
Right up to the present.
Carmelita Butland Bruce has dozens of handwritten notes detailing every interaction she's had with Bell & Rogers over the last year or so. She switched between the 2 providers many times, looking for the best deal. But when she recently made the switch, she didn't realize her home phone number that she's had for 8 years would change too.
It was horrific. It was a harrowing experience for myself, my daughter, my granddaughter. The stress involved was immeasurable. You could not measure the amount of time, effort, the physical stress, the mental stress, the emotional stress, and even financial, because I had to go to the Avila Mall to go to the outlet steer, but they couldn't help me.
Bruce says she's called Bell Alliance dozens of times, searching for answers. The company eventually told her the only way she could get her number back was by reactivating her Rogers account, which would cost money. In an email to CBC News, Bell Canada said it will be in touch with the customer. Bruce later said the company reached out to her and is working on solving the issue. She says it's been a long time coming, and she hopes the company solves things soon.
You feel a little bit, anxious that you're not able to contact people. And then with the scams on the go, if I call them with this mystery number, they may not answer. So I am kind of in the center and don't know how to spread out.
Bruce says she wants to advocate for others who have had similar experiences. She says there should be easier ways for seniors like herself to resolve issues with national companies like Bell. Jessica Singer, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, some of us woke up to some thunder earlier this morning, certainly on the Avalon. Most of the thunderstorms are currently offshore right now, but they are are moving west at the moment as we see this area of low pressure spinning some of those showers. Now up across Labrador, we've got an area of low pressure and a cold front that is also sparking some thunderstorms. Earlier we did see some thunderstorms move through Labrador. We've got lots of heat in front of that. In behind that, though, we do have some cooler temperatures in behind that cold front. And generally just going to see the wind shift onshore for eastern areas, and that means the return of some drizzle as we head through the next couple of days. Taking a look at the temperatures right now, 31 in Lab City, 32 in Churchill Falls. Wabush topped out at 32.4. That is the warmest temperature since July 1st, 2002, and the fact that yesterday was over 30 degrees and today that is the first time we've seen that since 2002, and that brings us to 3 days reaching 30 in a row here in 2023, and that is the most since 1983. So certainly lots of warmth. That cold front is going to move through. You're going to say goodbye to your 30s. I'll be back with the details.
Thanks, Ash. Well, staying in Labrador, there are little wooden boats popping up all over Happy Valley Goose Bay. Scott Mesher has been building and hiding these little boats all over town for young people to find, and they're a hit. Have a look.
My name is Alex.
And how old are you?
7.
Alex, what do you have in your hand?
I have a boat, and I got it next to the gate, next to the flame.
Wow, next to the base gate?
Yeah. My pop has a boat like it, and his birthday's today, and he has a white boat. I liked it a lot, and I like the Happy Valley.
What do you think of the guy who makes these boats?
He's a good builder making boats. They're very cool.
Where did you find it?
I found it at the base playground.
What did you think of the boat you found?
I thought it was a really cool boat.
Should the man keep doing it?
Yeah, he should, because they're really fun to find.
What would you like to say to the man?
Thank you for making these boats for people to find, and keep it up.
Hi, what's your name?
My name's Andy.
And did you find something recently on a picnic?
Yes.
What did you find?
I found a boat.
And do you know who made the boat?
Yes.
Who made it?
I think my uncle.
Uncle who?
Scotty.
Uncle Scotty. And what do you think about the boat? Do you think you should keep making them?
Yeah.
And do you think, what would you say to Uncle Scotty?
Thank you.
Hi, what you got? What's this?
Boat.
Yeah, you found it? Do you like your boat?
I made it.
You painted it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you hope he makes some more? Yeah, so we can go find some more, hey? Say thank you to him.
Thank you.
Oh, so sweet. It's like a little Easter egg hunt, but with boats. Well, now to St. John's. If you're heading to the Newfoundland Folk Festival this weekend, you'll definitely hear lots of fiddles. But back in 1850, the cello was the soundtrack to life in the town of Elliston. The story of this rare cello is part one of a summer series we're calling Inside the Vault. Each week, history curator Maureen Peters will unlock the giant vault at the Rooms and take us back in time with an artifact connected to life in our province today.
We don't think about the cello as being a Newfoundland instrument. Well, I mean, it was played in Outport, Newfoundland, so the instruments were so hard to get and so expensive that this probably played at all social events, weddings, get-togethers, and funerals, and gave a different sound to the town of Elliston that you didn't find anywhere else. Hi, my name is Maureen Peters, and I'm the Curator of History at the Rooms, and today I'm going to take you inside the vault. Come on in. This here is a violoncello, or cello as we commonly call it. It did not come with a bow, and there's no maker's mark. But the session record said that it was made in Europe in 1800 and brought to Newfoundland in 1850. So the player was Joseph Fielding, and he was one of the first people to move into Elliston. So this was played until 1885 in a Methodist community in Elliston, Trinity Bay. We have several violins in the collection, and two of those are handmade violins from people making them out of Newfoundland wood over the province, throughout the province. The reason why they learned how to make violins was because it was so hard to get one. You'd have to order one from a catalog and they were extraordinarily expensive. This is not a catalog order. This is someone was in Europe, purchased this cello, brought it to Newfoundland, settled in Elliston, and started playing it there at the local church. There's also little known about Joseph Fielding. We don't know if he was a classically trained cello player. We do know he came from England, but we don't know any more of his history. We do know that he was a fisherman. That kind of also gives us a clue that it might have been played more folky as opposed to play more with classical. Now, of course, Methodists are not big partiers or drinkers, but you know, they did still have a music tradition. There's a whole history in this instrument about Newfoundland and Labrador music and Newfoundland and Labrador folk music. This instrument was you could tell it was well used and well loved. I was thinking about this as like the sound of Elliston was the cello, as opposed to other places which are known for their violin and their accordion, and then later on the piano. Organs became popular in churches in the late 1800s and replaced the local instruments like this cello. And that's exactly what happened to this cello. The organ came in and replaced it, and it was retired and then brought here to the Rooms.
Interesting. Local comedians Brian Aylward, Mike Lynch, and Colin Hollett stopped by our radio studio for The Signal yesterday to discuss their cross-country Best Kind comedy tour. Host Adam Walsh asked about their writing process and how they develop their sets. Here's what they had to say.
With me, this year is I'm just talking about where I've been. So this year's kind of really different for me. I'm going to be talking about Egypt. I'm going to talk about Africa, talking about Spain, my travels.
So you were building, when you travel and you do comedy on the road, that also helps you build a set for
Well, it kind of happens that way. I kind of talk about my life because it's the only way to be original. Because like I'm nobody special, right? Like what I experience, what other people experience. So I just talk about what I see. And that's what have I been doing, all right? I've been living in Egypt. I've been living in Africa and Europe. I've been traveling. So I'm going to talk about that. Talk about my wife. You know, she's, been there with me. So, yeah, but this year definitely real travel heavy based. And it was amazing, man. I mean, Africa was just so unbelievable. Went on safari this year, did Egypt. So, I mean, how can you not talk about these places?
I just write a lot of stuff. Yeah. And then at least I just hope that 5% of it works. I just write a lot and then I just get rid of like 95% of it. What sucks is that you got to try it out in front of a crowd. So there's audiences out there in the world that has to suffer for my art.
That's fine. I mean, that's just how it works.
But I'm taking that 5% on the road this year. Best Kind Comedy Tour, Lewisport.
How often do you write?
Every day.
Every day?
Every day.
How much every day? Like an hour, half an hour, 2 hours?
No, well, I guess I write, sketches as well. So I'll probably write when I'm not like shooting stuff, probably like 2 to 4 hours a day.
Wow.
And maybe it's too much, probably, but.
No, I don't write as much as I used to. I do more voice memos or like little videos to myself as opposed to like writing it out. Finding it helps capture that more. But like I get into the car, and once I get into the car, I don't know. I feel like I can just, and I'm driving. I can just, I don't know. It just kind of comes out of me, and I can kind of capture what's on my mind. And so yeah, a lot of it just happens in the car or in the showers where I just end up thinking, talking out loud a lot, and then sometimes you say something out loud and then you're like, oh, that sounds funny. And you just kind of keep saying it to yourself all day in your head, kind of like you keep coming back to it. And then eventually you just hit a microphone and try it now in front of people. And that's kind of, and then if it hits, and you record, and we record all our sets usually, and it's just usually for your personal use, and you play it back, and you just know what, the more you do it, you understand what's working, what's not, just process of elimination, and then you bring it to the shows where people are paying good money to see say some funny stuff.
Let's Dance is about dreams, period. So we're set in a really stuffy high school in the 60s. The students kind of overtake it and revolutionize the culture and the curriculum of the school.
Some oldies but goodies in a new musical that opens at Holy Heart Theatre in St. John's this weekend. We'll hear about Let's Dance the Musical coming up.
Well, we haven't had much relief in the overnight periods from these temperatures, but some natural air conditioning moving in as we head through tonight. We'll talk all about it when I come back.
Wow, some warm weather in Wabash. You were mentioning earlier the warmest it's been. 32.3 or something?
32.4 since 2002, so it didn't quite break the record. It was about 2.2 degrees off the record. But another place that's been really warm, not far off, is Churchill Falls. So take a look at this. The heat warning still in place for Churchill Falls and the Valley. You're going to see the heat continue pretty much until we head into tomorrow. So your afternoon high still well into the 30s. Now here's where you sat today, 32 degrees in Churchill Falls. Lab City only showing 31, but as we just talked about, it was 32. And temperatures, though, in onshore flow, it's amazing what that wind can do, but only into barely 10 degrees, 11 in Twillingate today. And the temperatures are noticeably cooler through central west coast, 15 degrees today, 22 in St. John, so a tad cooler. But it was humid this afternoon, topped out at 30 with the humidex this afternoon at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. But you can see between 26 and 30 is what it felt like for most of the day. Down to 19 degrees at the moment, feeling more like 24 with that humidex. And other areas across the province too are starting to see that number drop. Only feeling like 18 in Badger. Even up across Labrador, not a whole lot of humidity. It's just straight up hot, 32 degrees in Churchill Falls with that humidex only feeling like 33. So as we head through the next couple of days with the humidex values, much drier air, more comfortable air will move in tomorrow. And especially through the night tonight, we're finally going to see some relief from that. So you can probably open up your windows and let some of that cooler air in. But this is where we'll be sitting as far as that dew point is concerned. So when we talk between 12 to 14 degrees or even 15 degrees, it's a lot more comfortable than it has been certainly for the last couple of days. Not the story though up across Labrador, still a little bit uncomfortable through Friday. Into Saturday though, we'll start to see those numbers creep back up, which means some humidity will move back in for Saturday, certainly for Happy Valley Goose Bay. And we'll start to see that across parts of the island as well. And that will be the story as we head into Sunday as well. So right now, couple of systems in play, area of low pressure and a stationary front associated with that. That is sparking some thunderstorms. Labrador, you are seeing a cold front move through, and that is sparking some thunderstorms up across Labrador as well. So you'll still see Lab West anyway. You'll still see that potential for some thunderstorms as we head through the night tonight. These thunderstorms, which you can really see on the radar there, are moving west towards the northern peninsula at the moment. Now, the forecast model's not doing a great job on picking them up, but we'll likely see if they keep themselves together. We will see them over the next couple of hours make their way towards Green Bay, White Bay, and even the northern peninsula potentially. Again, that's if they keep themselves together. Otherwise, we're talking about the wind shifting to more onshore flow for eastern areas of the island, and that means we're going to see the potential for some drizzle tonight and also some fog patches, which we haven't really talked about a whole lot on the north, or at least the east coast anyway. Along the south coast, that has been the rule. But you're actually going to see some relief from that over the next couple of days, which is nice as the pattern shifts a little bit. Certainly as we head into tomorrow morning, winds are more northerly, and that means that you should see some sunshine. Here's your temperatures tonight. So a little cooler than they have been, somewhere between 10 to 13 degrees cooler for the northern peninsula in the single digits yet again tonight. Same thing for southeastern Labrador. 17 degrees is your overnight low in Lab City. And again, you're going to see the potential for some thunderstorms over the next couple of hours at least. So here's tomorrow. There's the clearing for the southwest finally, but it does look like most of the island will stay cloudy through the day, eventually clearing as we get into the evening hours. So the potential for drizzle will certainly stick around. Cold front moves through Labrador. Still the risk of some thunderstorms. Some may be heavy at times through the afternoon. So if you are planning on being outside, make sure you have your eye to the sky tomorrow so you don't get caught in any of those thunderstorms. Other than that, quiet across the big land. Just some showers or thunderstorms may move towards central Labrador as we head into the overnight and early Saturday morning. Here's your temperatures tomorrow. So cooler for central for sure, 13 degrees in Gander tomorrow. About 19 or 20 for eastern areas, a lot less humid though. And as you head towards the west and even the south, temperatures are sitting somewhere between 17 to 22 degrees through the afternoon. Labrador, another hot day. For the most part, lots of sunshine though for Happy Valley Goose Bay and 25 degrees. We'll talk about the long range forecast when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, a new rock and roll style musical is opening at the Holy Heart Theatre this Saturday night in St. John's, and there's a twist. Actually, there's a lot of twisting. All of the music is from the early 1960s. The show is called Let's Dance the Musical, and we dropped by rehearsals this afternoon.
Leave it all on the dance floor. Here we go! Well, got a new dance and it goes like this.
Let's Dance is about dreams, period. So we're set in a really stuffy high school in the 60s, an arts prep school in Manhattan, and the students kind of overtake it and revolutionize the culture and the curriculum of the school, and thus succeed in living their dreams.
Get ready for a twister!
Northumberland High in the 1960s is about to close, so the two teachers are banding together with the students to make a pop showcase and try to save the school behind Principal Sherman's back.
I'm the choreographer, okay? So I was expecting, obviously, twist, mashed potato, ton of music, theater, jazz, the obvious stuff. But what I've learned through the process with Keith Pike, our director, who is also the director of Theatre St. John's, is that this show allows for truly every style of dance.
There's some crazy lifts, some awesome songs that people are singing their faces off. We got some ballads, up-tempos, big dance numbers, lights galore. Yeah, it's one that you're going to want to see, that's for sure. Very energetic.
Yeah, look at my forehead. You know, I'm exhausted, a ton of energy. Everybody at Terra Bruce is completely, at the maximum capacity here, but we're so lucky and we love it, and we're bringing so much, I think, to the arts community in Newfoundland and beyond.
So this is set a little bit before your time. The music is 1960s, so I guess you had to familiarize yourself a little bit with the era. What are your thoughts on this kind of music?
Yeah, I think the 1960s has great music. It's one that you want to move to, you want to tap your foot, move along, and sing along with. So when we were learning it, we definitely were wanting to get up and dance it, so it's fun to be dancing it with everyone around kind of thing and just have a good time.
Well, a lot of musicals are period musicals, and you need to know how to dance like you're in the 20s, and you need to know how to dance like you're in the 60s. What I can say is that we've blown that up, and we're not only doing the 60s style, like we've got a lot of contemporary dance in here too, that's worked into the kind of directorial vision, and they've just been on board and game and so talented and able to honestly do anything. I pointed Alex and he flips. It's wonderful.
Who is the target audience for this show?
Oh my God, we got to get the boomers out. You know, they know these songs. We've done this show already in Gananoque, and its sequel we workshopped recently in Stephenville. And we had the boomers there, and they were singing along, I have to say, more than any other show I've ever been at. They were so excited to hear these songs they hadn't heard in so long, and these fabulous arrangements by Aaron Ear and supported by Paul Moody. And we've turned some of their favorite jams from their teenagerhood into these epic music theater tunes, and the music couldn't be better.
And I guess that's what you aim for too. If you can get audience participation like that, that's pretty good.
I felt so happy and proud of myself when I was sitting there in the audience, and truly people were singing along all around me, and so overjoyed to hear this song. You know how music connects in this special way to all of us, right? And some of the songs that Walter Schroeder has picked for us, they connect with people in a special way, and that's what it's all about.
So this is a show that the boomers will enjoy, but what about the younger folks? What's in it for them?
You know what? The contemporary storyline, they can relate to this. These students at the top of the show are within a cage, and they feel like they can't express themselves, and they're having to live within an old-fashioned culture. I think, I'm also a teacher, so I know that all of the students that I teach at that age can totally relate to that. And what happens on this stage, in this show, is that the students win, and they take over, and they do revolutionize the school and the world and achieve everything.
Well, the union representing refinery workers is pleased there's a criminal investigation into last year's flash fire. Find out about how safety concerns are being addressed. As we reported earlier this week, the RCMP has launched a criminal investigation into a fatal explosion last year at the Come By Chance Refinery. Last fall, the union representing about 400 workers there called for police to get involved. Miles Sullivan is with the United Steelworkers Union for Ontario and the Atlantic provinces. Today, he spoke about these latest developments with the CBC's Rob Antle.
Mr. Sullivan, thanks for speaking with me. Last October, you called for the RCMP to launch a criminal investigation into what happened at Come By Chance. What's your reaction now that that's happened?
Well, my reaction is that I'm pleased to hear that it's being investigated under a criminal lens. You know, 10 workers were injured in the workplace in a flash fire on September 2nd of last year. And 8 of those were hospitalized, and one of our members eventually passed away from that accident and those injuries, suffered on the job. Brother Sean Peddle, 47 years old, passed away October 15th, 2022, with his family at his side after suffering in the hospital for multiple weeks with that injury and the injuries that were suffered at the workplace. And it's not right for someone to lose their life on the job for an accident that we believe was completely preventable.
It's been 10 months since this happened. What's the impact been on the workers, your members who are still working at Come By Chance?
Well, first off, I want to be clear that our members value their jobs. They value the good paying jobs in the community, and it's important to them. But it's not right to have to go into work and to walk by a work area in the refinery where the flash fire took place and have the memories come back and the recollection of what took place every day in the workplace. It's hard on them, but I do know that there has been measures with our Health and Safety Committee working to do improvements, but those improvements don't erase the past, and it doesn't make it right with the fatality in the flash fire that took place. And that's why the RCMP criminal investigation is so important.
And speaking of the past, RCMP search warrant documents do reference apparent safety concerns before the explosion happened, that workers were being pushed, that someone was going to get hurt. What have you heard about that?
Well, all I can tell you is we know that it's still being investigated. It's still being looked at. I know for myself that it's the legal duty, it's the law that all persons directing work in Canada must take reasonable steps to prevent bodily harm arising from that work. You know, the workers at the refinery, they're responsible to follow policies, procedures, and to work as safely as possible. But at the end of the day, management and those directing that work are accountable to make sure it's done safely, and they're accountable when something goes wrong. So that's again why this is so important, and we know it takes time, and we're being patient as the RCMP continues with their investigation.
Is the union satisfied with current safety measures in place at Come By Chance?
The union is satisfied that there's better safety measures now. There's been some changes. We're more directly involved, but it shouldn't have taken a fatality to get there, and someone has to be held accountable.
What do you want to see happen now?
What I want to see happen now is the RCMP to continue to do their investigation. The Steelworkers Health and Safety Committee of Local 9316 in Come By Chance to have cooperation from management and their health and safety representatives to make sure that we work together so that this does not happen again. And it has to be working together. That's why this happened in the first place, because management wasn't working together with us in order to make sure that a fatality like this didn't take place at the workplace.
Many people spend hours on beaches and shorelines in the summer looking for sea glass. It can be a big deal to find a perfect piece. We got some tips from an artist on PEI who has worked with the glass for decades. He told us why he thinks people enjoy sea glass so much and why it's getting harder to find. Have a look.
To you, what is a good piece of sea glass to you?
Well, first off, it has to have a story, okay? So I've had couples come in that are on their honeymoon and find a piece of glass that is only fair, okay? But to them, it's invaluable. It's something that they'll have forever because it's part of the history of PEI. If you're looking to find sea glass in Prince Edward Island, just look for the beach. It's everywhere. Sea glass is something that's found everywhere in the world, but each one has its own story. Each glass, each little cove, when you find it there, you can be assured that it has a memory to it, be it black glass from rum runners, or be it from a washboard that someone, a first settler broke and threw in the water. It literally is getting less. But the value to the people who visit here is increasing.
How do we know there's less?
There's less there because we're not adding to it. There's less there because more and more people are picking it up. And also the ocean is reclaiming it. Because the ocean is, remember now, it's making it smaller and smaller and smaller. So every year, you're going to find less big pieces. The smaller pieces will get smaller, and pretty soon nature has said, I want it back, and they're going to take it back as sand and lime or whatever, the components of glass. Now, if people are making glass and selling it as, well, I made this, it's just glass. We have glass beads, we have glass artwork, and so on. So that is just another craft. But if you try to sell it as sea glass, then you're taking away the joy that people have, in getting a true memory of PEI.
An Alberta court has approved a settlement in a case around harassment that could have an impact nationally. It started when two female firefighters came forward to say they had been harassed and bullied on the job in the city of Leduc. And now a wider compensation plan has been approved by a judge. Madeline Cummings has the story.
This is a huge win for women in Alberta and across Canada.
A class action settlement approved in an Edmonton court this week could have implications across the country. Women who worked for the City of Leduc's fire department sued their employer last year, alleging systemic discrimination and harassment.
There haven't been a lot of settlements for this type of workplace sexual misconduct in Canada, but from what we can tell, this is the highest per person settlement ever in Canada for sexual harassment, sexual assault in a workplace.
The situation has played out publicly, with one firefighter tendering her resignation on the floor of a city council meeting.
When I received this badge, I was full of pride. Now when I look at it, all it is a symbol of my trauma and an unsafe workplace.
Though this case began with firefighters, any woman who worked for the city over the past 20 years can join the class action. Each participant could receive between $10,000 and $285,000 in compensation. The agreement also includes a public apology from the mayor and a review of the city's equity strategy. This expert says this outcome could influence future cases.
One hopes that there aren't a lot of similar situations at fire departments across the country or other law enforcement agencies. But if it is the first one involving a municipality as opposed to a federal agency, then it may cause other people in other municipalities to follow suit.
So this might empower women to start coming forward and might empower them to be a little more brave, right?
Women have about a year to join the class action, and the process will be confidential. The city of Leduc says the settlement is a step towards accountability and healing. It says it's committed to learning from the past to prevent sexual misconduct from happening in the future. Madeline Cummings, CBC News, Edmonton.
A commemorative mass was held today in Lac-Mégantic, Quebec, one of the events held to mark the 10th anniversary of the rail disaster that left 47 people dead. It's one of the deadliest ever in Canadian history. Parts of the town's center were destroyed when an unattended freight train carrying crude oil derailed and exploded in the early morning hours. 2,000 people were forced to leave their homes, and about 6 million liters of crude oil spilled into the environment. An 8-year-old girl was killed and 15 people were hurt when a car crashed into a school in southwest London today. 10 people were taken to hospital. Police say there was no indication terrorism was involved. The crash happened at a private girls' school in the Wimbledon district, less than 2 kilometers from the site of the famous tennis tournament. Police say the area of the school that was hit is used by students from 4 to 8 years of age. A woman in her 40s has been arrested on dangerous driving charges. All right, so time for a look at the long range, looking ahead to the weekend. Is it going to be nice?
Some areas are going to see some sunshine. That will definitely be the story, but we are going to see that humidity move back in after a bit of relief tomorrow. Let's take a look at what's going on for your afternoon on Friday. So into your evening hours, you're going to see that chance of showers. That's when the cold front moves through across Labrador. So even as we head into Saturday for central areas of Labrador, you are looking at the risk of some thunderstorms. So I'm talking about Happy Valley, Goose Bay, even towards coastal areas. The North Coast anyway, you could see that risk of thunderstorms. Now, as far as the island is concerned, there are some peaks of sun, certainly in the mix, but it does look unsettled for the most part as we head into most of the day. But there you go, your temperatures are going to start to climb up, and that's the story for central and western Newfoundland. Even areas along the south coast are going to see some of those mild temperatures as well. Still about 20 degrees for St. John's, but it will feel humid through the day. Labrador, you're looking at your temperature around 25 degrees for Happy Valley, Goose Bay. Once that cold front moves through, your temperatures will dip, and that's already happening in Nain, down to 11 degrees as your afternoon high on Saturday. So into the evening hours and then working our way through to Sunday morning, that cold front will move through. That means some cooler air right across the board. For Labrador anyway, more showers will move in for those of you in Lab West, and then we're looking at some better shower chances across the island as well, particularly west and south coast, but we're back in that onshore flow. So areas like the Northern Peninsula, coastal areas of Labrador will be back into the teens through the day. Temperatures otherwise will be around 23 for Gander. I have 18 for St. John's, so we are on that cool side. And then for Labrador, back up to 25 degrees for Lab City and 24 in Happy Valley, Goose Bay. So the long range forecast next week does look a bit cool and a bit gray and a bit rainy. So we're talking between 15 and 18 degrees, but your overnight lows will be hovering around 12 degrees. You can't see Carolyn's face right now, but she's not happy. And then for central Newfoundland, we're looking at Monday and Tuesday warming up. Warming up compared to everywhere else, I guess. But you're still looking at a mix of sun and cloud through the day. Western Newfoundland, same thing, a little bit more cloudy though, between 23 and 25 degrees as our afternoon highs. And then for Eastern Labrador, we're staying pretty much in the 20s, more unsettled by the time we get into Monday and Tuesday. And for Western Labrador, similar forecast as far as the rain is concerned, but your temperatures will be between 23 and 24 degrees. Now, speaking of fog, foggy shot. Foggy day in Trinity. Bob shared this great shot with us. You have any weather photos? Send them to Facebook or Twitter, but the best place is nlphotos@cbc.ca.
I appreciate the pretty shot, Bob. I feel like we've seen enough of fog this summer, though, I must say. And yes, I'm not too pleased with that forecast for next week. It was just rain almost every day.
At least
and
drizzles.
Like 15 degrees on one day.
It's that onshore flow, right? It's amazing what those winds can do.
Yeah, we can do it. We can get through it. It's going to be fine. Okay, that's it for us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.